Hey guys, welcome to Trust in the Drive, episode number 7. I'm your host, Christopher Ilderton, and on today's episode, I'm going to interview legendary principal educator Mike Hettenbach and his efforts to revitalize High Point Central High School and how well of a job he's done on his first year here. Mike, how you doing?
Very good. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Good to see you all.
Do people call you Mr. Principal, or what is the correct terminology to call it principal?
That's interesting. I've been called many things, sometimes worse too. But Mr. H, Mr. Principal.
Cool.
There's a little joke going on. I've got one kid that calls me Mr. Hackenbach. It's I've been doing this so long. It's really more about the respectful delivery.
Cool. Well, I'm glad we're getting a chance to interview today, and also I wanted to give a big shout out to our sponsor that's going to be hosting this podcast with us, the Bison Pride Group, which you're familiar with, which we're going to get into closer to the end of the episode. But big shout out to Bison Pride. They're our advertising sponsor. And really, we'll start out with the first question is, how long have you been in the education business?
So this is my 28th year. 28th year, started as a physical education teacher. Near and dear to me, physical education gets a bad reputation, the old drop the bag and run kind of, curriculum, but that was not me, and I love to intertwine the main curriculum. I always went after the students that just did enjoy physical activity and see how I can get them into lifelong active individuals in community. Probably about 8 years into, became an assistant principal, again, Guilford County, Weaver, on to Lincoln, helped reopen up Lincoln across from Dudley.
Nice.
Southwest recruited me for a freshman academy administrator, got my first principalship there for 5 years. Superintendent requested me to be a principal supervisor last year, loved it, but probably midway through, I knew I was missing something, and that was the kids, the community, the teachers, and she could tell on my face, and she asked me where I wanted to go, and here we are, High Point Central.
Well, there's a lot of heritage at High Point Central. My grandfather went there. He ran track there. And then my father and also uncle went there. So I was a third-generation Bison. Mm-hmm. And I know your experience is definitely needed at that school. Mm-hmm. I had a great mentor, real leader as a principal when I was there. Shout out Ravonda Johnson. She did such a wonderful job leading our school to victory as far as the sports and the academics go. So, but anyways, I'm so glad to see that you're in our community, and I know my father is too, and our company, Ilderton Dodge, is we're Bison heart. I got a Buffalo Bison on my desk, and I think about the High Point Central High School all the time. I got my diploma in my office. Mm-hmm. It was such a great time in my life, and I dedicate a lot of great memories to being in high school. And you do that every day. You get to help these young kids in our community really just live their dream. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to get into a tough question right out of the gate. And where do you think you fell short this year? This was your first year, so you probably wanted to accomplish a lot in your first year because you're just kind of a go-getter guy. Where do you think you fell short this year?
That's a great question, and I have to say I was just talking to my admin team today, and we were reflecting on how much we accomplished. I would say the big piece, knowing the demographics of High Point Central, we have to do a better job of race relations within the school, bringing everybody together. It doesn't help that our world is so divisive right now. Yeah. That trickles into schools as well. But we've seen it over time, but I need to have more intentionality about it. We're talking about some groups next year, bring them together, have very critical conversations, a safe platform to talk about anything without criticizing others. I've done that in previous schools. It was very successful. I was thinking about starting at the beginning of the year. Probably one of my regrets. I should have started it, but there was so much I was bringing to High Point Central. I was worried about overload.
Yeah, history repeats itself. This has been an issue ever since America was born, and and in the high school time frame of kids being 14 to 18-year-olds, where emotions are high and parents are still involved, things can definitely get hot and heavy quickly, I'm sure. and you're seeing that firsthand. You're on the front lines of it.
Yep.
Because that's got to be a tough position to be in as a professional, car dealer or fixed ops director. I don't really see that much in the workplace. Most of the people I'm dealing with day to day are just grown adults and have lived in this world and have a lot of respect for each other. But those lines can quickly get drawn. And I saw that when I was in high school, just people disrespecting each other. And you're at that moment where you got to correct that behavior right there and then, or it's going to trickle down into somebody's life and be with them for the rest of their life. So that's
it's a great this year too. I reflect on it, and I'm at the point now. Again, I was telling the admin team, where I've got parents in my cell phone, I've got kids in my cell phone, texting me over the weekend, and I always feel good, especially when my minority students are coming up and they just say, "Hey, Mr. Hettenbach, can I talk to you? Hey, I heard this," or "Mr. Hettenbach, when you said this, did you mean this?" It takes a lot of guts for a kid to approach, the typical principal, and they're approaching me, and I appreciate that because we have a mature conversation, and I'm seeing that more and more. So I want to kind of build on that.
Good. Building trust with the human is very hard to do, especially when, like we said in the beginning, the person has been disrespected or hurt in the past, and so I think it's important that you witness that and you realize that and that you got to continue to build trust with this community and especially these students, and it's gonna help them way down the road. Okay, so I have a lot of people in my sphere of influence. Okay, and there's 42 people in the department that I'm in at work. And so I'm working around, roughly 10 to 20 people consistently all the time. And they love to make fun of my traits that I have. One of them is, I'm going to do it right now, is I always when I'm thinking, I do this. And I don't even realize I'm doing it. My wife makes fun of me for doing it. And I'll look over and somebody's rubbing their hands like this, and it's because they caught me doing it. What's a trait that annoys your colleagues or thinks that they make fun of you for that
happened this morning? I mean, without question, I am so ADHD. Okay. I mean, I'll have admin, they start talking to me, and I just cut them off and go on to the next subject, and it's not disrespectful. They know it. My treasurer, she comes in and pay attention, and I need those colleagues, I need the staff to kind of keep me in check. But, the ADHD mixed with a little OCD is probably not a good mix, but, at the same time, they know I'm moving so fast. I call it manage up. They do a great job of managing me up.
Oh, that's cool. I like that term, manage up. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, we got to build these people around us so they can, make us better and we can make each other better. I love that. That's so cool. I'm also diagnosed with some learning disabilities, so a little bit of correction here and there from my sister. 'Cause I work with my sister, or some of my close colleagues. We got that trust with each other. We believe in each other. What do you think is the most professional accomplishment or your biggest win in your career so far?
I would probably say the relationships I have built, and I'm trying to get it started at High Point Central. What I mean by that, especially with my minority groups, I've been referenced by someone special in my life who was born and raised on Long Island, Hempstead to be specific, and she's Latino, and she always called me the white man on the bottom of the flagpole.
Okay.
And what she meant by that was, if you remember the news back a bit with South Carolina and someone trying to get the Confederate flag down, and electric company was going to shock her.
Oh, wow.
Down,
I don't remember that.
And instead, here comes a white man, and he handcuffs himself to the pole. In other words, if you can do that to her, you can do that to me. And very, 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 very touching. I had another experience yesterday where one of my African-American staff members having a very, very tough time in her life. And she said something off the cusp, and I still can't shake it right now in a good way. And she said, "You're my favorite white male in my life,"
That's awesome.
and it was God, and I've only known her for 7, 8 months, and it wasn't meant like I love you, I like you, whatnot, just based on trust and respect for me. And that hit me hard. Hit me hard. So, I've got a lot more work to do to build that trust, especially being in a new school, a new community. But if I continue to do what I've done in the past, I think I'll accomplish that in High Point Central.
Yeah, I know. When I was first starting out in the career that I've chosen, which is being in the car business, I had no idea what like building a relationship was like, and I didn't have the intuition to like invest in other people. What I quickly realized is like the car business is like a group of people that rely on each other for information to really just help the customer experience overall. And so like I'll go like tomorrow I'm flying out to a group of dealers in Denver where they have like a strategic group where we sit around like a boardroom and we discuss ways of like hiring practices or wages or customer experience, and like we're always trying to build a better company or build our brands better. And I would not be where I'm at today without any of those people. And I had no idea that was like I thought for a long time I was going to always have to like rely on myself,
right?
Or like maybe just even rely on like my father or someone near and dear to me. And it takes a lot of work to pick up the phone, call someone, and being honest with them and telling them what the situation that you're going through and just being like, hey, like I need some help here, like, and it humbles you. And especially when you're talking about something sensitive topics like you discussed earlier. I mean, those are things that I am not equipped with right now. Like I would not know how to deal with those kind of situations. It would be extremely difficult for me. But as far as like maybe a discount on a tire, I'm pretty well equipped to talk about something like that, or anything automotive. So that's awesome that you're building relationships with all these people. It's not like in high school where like we all like Dudley or Andrews was like our big rival,
right?
Like you probably would be willing to call one of those other administratives and tell them what's going on, and y'all are just going to lift each other up and just try to take care of the
kids. And that's
kids.
a great point. We have a little small principal group. We try to get out to each other.
Good.
Once a month. Partial therapy. And partial just hearing what's going on in their schools. And sometimes, as a principal, it's a very lonely role. For me, I got 1,200 kids, I got 120 plus staff, and then you talk about the guardian parents, you're looking at probably 5,000 stakeholders that are just immediately connected to High Point Central, not counting alumni, community, anything.
Right.
And so, the spotlight's on you. You make a mistake, it's bigger than just a mistake. And so when you hear the things that are not going right at other schools, you sit back and go, you know what, it's not that bad. We're doing okay.
Yeah.
It lifts you up, but a lot of people don't do that. They try to keep their things to themselves, and I don't think it's a wise move.
I got caught picking my nose one time, like at the dealership, and and at that point, I was like, man, everybody is watching me at all times, and I was like, I bet. The eye is on you. The eye is on you all the time, and you got to be present in all your moments to make sure that you're leading a group in the best way you can.
Yeah, when you make a mistake and people don't know you,
right,
it's the worst thing you've ever done.
Yeah,
and especially when they don't know you, and that's and hopefully the things like I've made serious mistakes this year, but hopefully I'm trying to teach especially my students that another thing this world is missing is empathy, and we've got to learn how to work with each other. I had a group of students advocating for some other student. They didn't think they needed to get the consequences they did. And rather than, we talked about why. We went into why, just had a great conversation, me, 3 students, an assistant principal, and the assistant principal typically has more fangs, and the principal comes in and goes through the conversation piece. So, try to just make them recognize, why you do this, why you don't, and what can we do differently. I'm not a fan of just suspend right away. You know what I mean? It's how can we learn from this? Just sending a kid home is not the solve all.
Well, I can tell that your style is you bring a lot of humility to the table, and you're trying really hard to open yourself up to as many people as possible so that you can just gain as much as you can to get improvement at High Point Central. Yeah, it's awesome. All right, so. When I was in high school, or even when I was in middle school, there was this dreaded summer reading list. And when I was 14, 12, whatever age I was, I did not like to read.
Yeah.
And now that I'm in my 30s, I enjoy reading all the time. I love it. But I'm interested to hear, like, what's your reading list looking like? What are you reading right now?
So, it's interesting. Here we are on a podcast. I like to listen to a lot of podcasts.
True.
I'm on the road. I'm working 12 to 16 hours a day. I sadly, as much as I wish, I don't have time to pick up a book and lay down or whatnot. If I pick up a book when I get home after school, my mind's swirling. I can't focus on the book. I'm trying to decompress. But, I try to read a lot of books or listen to podcasts that can help me better relate to students or what students need.
Yeah.
There's a gentleman I met at a High Point School Partnership Award ceremony for students, and the guy is an alumni of Davidson College. One of my students, Mario Martinez, he has a full ride to Davidson. An undocumented student, it's a story and a half, and now he's going to Davidson full ride. He's got plenty other offers too. And so I connected them, and he brought a book that he wrote.
Yeah.
And it's about, leadership as a young person and the traits that they're missing until later in life. And so I'm going to be reading that this summer, like, what can I bring back to the table for students to get a little ahead, before they recognize what it takes to be a leader.
Yeah.
I'm trying to bring books that students can relate to too. There are books that I know you asked what I'm going to read, but there's a great book, and I heavily recommend it for everyone, called The Other Westmore.
Okay.
And it's about two young African-American males, inner city Baltimore, same time frame, same name, and one made different choices than the other. The other is now a prominent doctor. The other one is in jail.
Yeah.
And so I did it at Southwest. A lot of my African-American male students, we had book clubs, and these students have never read the book, and they were so engrossed to the point, like, we would stop a chapter and they wanted to keep going, and we're like, no, we're re-meeting next Wednesday,
Right.
and just so I'm trying to find more books like that our students can relate to, enjoy reading, start reading, and again, finding those kids that just don't like reading to get them connected.
Yeah.
So
there's so much knowledge out there that it's incredible, and like, knowledge is power. And if you got a great book in your hands and you can take away what's on those pages, you are going to be a very powerful person. Yep. And the more, and I'm jealous of those people that can read a lot of books really fast. Like,
I agree.
I was always a super slow reader. Podcasts are great. I'll sometimes even put the podcast on like 1.5 speed, so I can just take in the information more. And recently too, I've been big shout out Audible. I buy books online and listen to them. So anybody who's dyslexic out there and says they can't read any books, like, it's 2023. You can get the knowledge somehow. That's awesome. So all right, so I interview a lot of people. So I'm gonna switch the topic a little bit. So I interview a lot of people. I'm always hiring, trying to build up my team. What is so I'm always thinking of good, like, interview questions, just not just something that's out of the ordinary, but also can, like, really give you some great characteristics of somebody before you bring them onto your team. Like, if you're looking for a teacher, what are you asking them? Like, what's bringing their true colors out? Like what's a great favorite interview question of yours?
Well, I'm gonna flip it.
Okay.
So the way I always start an interview is talking about myself, 5-10 minutes, because I truly believe if I'm going to be the leader of the school, I don't want anybody working for me that doesn't believe in who I am or my vision.
Right.
We all have short lives. I mean, right now as an educator, it's a buyer's market.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of options out there. I don't want people to, delay going to bed at night. I don't want them to hit snooze 12 times just thinking they got to see Mr. Hettenbach the next day. It's a buyer's market. I want you to be happy. Our lives are too short. So I start that, and I give them a little bit about myself so they can feel good about the leader at High Point Central. But then I always like to turn the interview around, and I always shock my people by saying, your turn to interview us.
Okay. Do you think it's, like, more competitive than you've ever had it in your industry with the 28 years of experience that you've had, like, trying to compete for other teachers out in the market?
Well, interestingly, when I started last July 1, we had 21 vacancies. I've never experienced anything like that. anything like that. The assistant principal that was with me July 1, I mean, that's all we were doing. And I thought I was going to be able to start putting the structures in place, whatnot. We were working long hours. Give you an example, as of today, I've got one vacancy, and I already got three bites on it.
That's awesome.
So, to say, is it a competitive market, it all depends on what you do, to sell your product.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest with you, High Point Central, for me, is very easy to sell. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes special people to work at High Point Central. It takes special people to grasp on to the history, the 95 years of High Point Central, or we can call it High Point High School in the back of the day.
Yeah.
Once they see the passion from me, I've been there less than a year, but the history of that school has completely captivated me like I never would have experienced. I knew it would, but not this fast. And I mean, I'm sucked in. 14 years at Southwest, I thought I was going to bleed green for the rest of my life, and the green is out of my system. I still love them, still have a place for them, but I mean, I'm completely bleeding blue, and the people hear that.
Yeah.
And so. Again, I mean, it's you're in the dealership business. If I'm riding a car and I keep talking to everybody and I just love it and I keep talking about it, those cars are going to sell more and more and more. And so I've got people that are reaching out to me asking me if the position's open. They want to work at High Point Central.
That's
and
beautiful.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. The brand of High Point Central to me was like, I fought with my parents so much to get into that school. They wanted to send me somewhere else, and I had convinced them that I was like, look, I am going to play football for High Point Central. Like that is what's going to happen. My father did it. My grandfather did. Like, I really want that experience, and I really want to be there. And I felt the love as soon as I walked through the doors. Like, it was embracing, like being in the towers, and seeing that old architecture and the beauty of that school and how much it has like been a part of our city. It is it represents our city just so well, and I want it to continue to like be a part of my kids' lives. Like, I if you ask me today, right now, it's like, what do you want your two children that you have on this earth to go do? And I was like, I want them to be able to pull up to High Point Central High School and to be a bison.
Yeah.
Like it would just be an honor. And I know they had like the coolest auditorium that we had. You rebuilt the women's gym, like that I used to practice with Coach Carter. We would play against the women's basketball team. This is kind of cool. The football team would take like a practice squad, and it would be after practice, and we would scrimmage with the women's basketball team, and just to like make each other better and just like get each other in better shape. And it was just so many great memories taken away from the athletic program too. Like, I thrived.
And what you're sharing is just, I don't know how much people see the news, but we hired Josh Prince, Dudley High School's basketball coach. Current basketball coach, decided to do a change in his job.
Okay.
And so Josh was one of Dudley's best math teachers. The basketball coach turned the program upside down, winning program, one of the best in our conference. And he wants to work at High Point Central. Now, his father just got voted into the Hall of Fame for High Point Central.
That's
and
amazing.
there's the connection. And he started talking about that in the interview, and you feel that. It's like, my dad was here. My dad, and I mean, it hits me. I don't have family or, that I can say went to High Point Central, but it hits me almost just as hard.
That's great. So you're a principal and a full-time recruiter.
Right.
Yeah. So taking 13 vacancies or 14 vacancies and turning them into one vacancy that's a beautiful thing right there.
Great thing. Yeah.
And congratulations on doing that.
Thank you.
So education-wise, we've covered a lot. Like, you were very well educated. You've been in the education world a little bit. I want to transfer over to the automotive side.
Okay.
Because this is an automotive podcast. Like, we do work in a dealership here at Ilderton Dodge, and my favorite thing to ask everybody, even if I'm at like a party or something social, is what kind of car are you driving right now?
Right. So right now I've got a 2012 white Ford Flex. Don't be jealous.
Dude, the Ford Flex is tried and true. I will say this, like, we sell a lot of used cars at Ilderton Dodge. You cannot keep a Ford Flex
I'm shocked
in our
they
inventory.
stopped selling them.
Dude,
I love
me too.
it. I mean,
they're they're like really what's funny is like they're so easy to get in and out of and accessible
Yeah.
that the market is just in love with
It
them.
drives so well.
It does.
I mean, I think I've got 270,000 miles on the thing
That's
right
awesome.
now. I
Shout
mean,
out Ford Flex.
You know, it's probably the best car I've had, you know, but, you know, I still have some dreams I've had in the past that I've kicked myself for getting rid of, but, you know.
All right, so I know when you were 12 years old hanging out in your parents' house, you didn't have a poster of a Ford Flex on your wall.
No, I didn't.
What was your dream car growing up?
That's interesting. It probably would have been the old Ford Mustang, you know,
Okay,
back in the
Mustang.
60s, you know.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
So like a Ford Mustang is just a classic, timeless
Yeah.
car that I think a lot of dreamers will always
Think of the
have.
old Chargers. You think of the old, you
Yeah,
know,
the
all
old Chargers, the old Barracudas.
You know, I think of the old cars back in the, you know, 50s, 60s. Like that's where I'm stuck on. You know?
Okay. You think one day you're ever gonna get you a Mustang and just ride off into the sunset?
I think my back's killing me that I can't get down in those low cars. You know, I need to hire cars. I already know that. You
Yeah.
know, my beautiful other has a little Kia. I can't even remember the name, or Hyundai. It's a small car, and I can't stand getting in and out of that car. You know, just getting down low. I feel my back creaking. You know,
Yeah.
my knees creaking. My knees up against the dash. You know, so you know, I don't need a huge car. I just need a car that I can get easy in and out. You know.
The Ford Flex. I love
Yeah,
it. That's
yeah.
awesome. All right, so Tim Ilderton is the dealer at the Ilderton Dodge, and he came to me one time, and he was like, "Look, I got this special project I'm putting together, and it's called Bison Pride, and I got a bunch of other alumni that have been involved in it, and we're gonna get a group of old graduates that have been in the city, and we're gonna also see how the city can, or like the Bison Pride group, the nonprofit group, can invest back into the school itself." And I think I'm phrasing that right, because all the funding from Bison Pride does not come from Guilford County.
Correct.
And what you have asked the community when you first came on is to almost give money outside of their tax dollars and give even more back to the school because of how important it is for the community.
Yeah.
And Bison Pride has started that journey. I think they want to accomplish a lot more than what they've accomplished. But what's one of the things that you've noticed that Bison Pride's accomplished for the school?
I mean, let's start with the partnership alone. You know, I'm the absolute greatest, biggest challenge I've had this year is the community involvement, support. It's the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. But it's difficult managing everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's so much. But you know, it started with you know, I took the assistant principal when I came July 1st, and I said, let's take some outside time. I mean, remember the vacancies I had to hire and all that stuff. And I said, we're going to go outside. And in fact, I borrowed Tim's pressure washer from the dealership.
I got that call.
I mean,
that was a call to me.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Hey, I need you to take one of your technicians and drive it down to High Point Central High School and just start pressure washing." And I was like, "Dad, what does that mean?"
Yeah.
I was like, "We got like, is there like a plan in place?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, I got a plan." He was like, "I need that pressure washer, and I need one of our guys to get down there tomorrow and plan on that person being gone from your, attendance, and they're gonna work on the school." And I was like, "Sounds good. Let me know."
And we just started pressure washing. We started to sign. Mr. Hagerman and we just started pressure washing the sign, everything. And all of a sudden, neighbors were like, "Who are you? What are you doing?"
Yeah.
You know, and hey, I'm the new principal. And they were baffled. You know, principal, assistant principal, pressure washing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I tried to tell my assistant principal prior to, when people realize leadership takes pride in the school, watch what happens. I did not think it was going to come to this, though. So what I love about Bison Pride is sometimes when you get alumni and community partners, they come in and they almost want to bum rush and say, "No, this is what we're going to do."
Yeah.
When, the partnership, it's a give and take. Bison Pride may say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" I may come, "What do you think about this?" And sometimes we agree with the other person's thoughts on what to do next, and sometimes we meet in the middle. But, I'll be honest with you, having been at Southwest and visiting games at High Point Central, when we played High Point Central, one of the most beautiful school structures I've ever seen in my life, but yet looked like it hadn't been taken care of in decades. And I'm that guy that I'll roll my sleeves up, pressure wash, clean. I'm the guy that will pick up a dirty COVID mask, put it in the can, and wash my hands. If I can do that, anybody else can do that on my staff or kids. And we've done a little pressure washing. I think one of the best things that's happened is trimming the trees up.
Yeah, that was a big
the
thing. I
trees
remember
coming
that.
up, it just kind of put more light on the school and to show that Gothic structure. Guilford County Schools then, which is interesting, when Bison Pride started doing these things, Guilford County Schools started helping us out with other areas, like improving the lighting. Between Guilford County Schools and Bison Pride, that's how we got that women's gym renovated.
I remember that.
Taking the wood down to its original floor from 1927. I mean, that's insane.
Cool.
The nails I still have, some of them, they're like those square nails that go into the ground. I still got plenty of leftover flooring. If alumni come by, I always give them a strip of the old flooring. Take this home with you.
It's contagious, man. Keeping the old building alive is contagious. Like our dealership's 97 years old, and we have like similar background as far as like we got to keep this thing alive. It's like what's the point in just developing a brand new school when you got a perfectly good one here that just needs a little bit of paint, a little bit of nighting, get some mulch in there, get a little pressure washing going, and that's what I see happening right there. It's definitely contagious. Everybody's kind of buying into this.
Oh
thing.
yeah,
It's
the
cool.
Bison Pride, they took care of our staff lounge, makes the staff a little bit more.
Yeah.
I love this. We had 2 bathrooms that were almost never used, and they looked horrible. They were renovated, new toilets, new mirrors,
dude.
little things
I
like
was
that.
terrified to use the bathrooms in high
they
school.
go so far, and I always try to tell people, they're like, why are you putting so much effort into this? And I said, well, look at it this way. If you went to 2 restaurants, the same exact ownership, same name, okay, same staff, and you go in and one's nasty and dirty and the other one's clean, which one are you going to go? 100% of the time, you're going to go to the other one. You're going to feel better in it. I guarantee your meal may even taste better.
Yeah.
Even in the clean thing, even though it's the same exact meal, and, again, another great positive is parents say they can see the difference. The kids see a difference, I mean, it's a good feeling.
We could talk about all the great stories. Like you had the football team picking up trash in the neighbors' yards one time. But one story I want to go and get some like clarity on, because you were there, I was not there, so I only heard about it secondhand. And you feel free to jump in whenever you want. But we're gonna give a shout out to Dick's Sporting Goods.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you kind of know where this is going.
Yep.
And from what I understand, I'm gonna relay the story that I know is that Dick's Sporting Goods is celebrating 75 years of being in business, and they reached out to the High Point Central High School athletic program, and they said, hey, look, like we want to give back to some of the community that's been so good to us over this last couple of decades. What's one area that needs improvement at your school that we could do to help the athletic program? And it was up to you, I think, at this point. This was a call that you received, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and what happened then? Like, what was the call like? What did they say?
So, I've been hit a lot this year. Like, we want to give back. I mean,
Sure.
High Point Central's a feel-good story,
Yeah.
And so we set up the meeting. Mike Cook, the athletic director, and we sat, and I believe Coach Shay Hayes, women's basketball coach, she came in, the 4 of us talked, and the way it was delivered was, we got 75 schools, we want to give back.
So
and,
it's one of
what are you
75
looking at?
schools,
And of course, what projects, and of course I always shoot for the stars. I say, $250,000, what do you think?
Yeah.
And then
You're
laugh by this executive from Dick's, and he goes, no, you're probably looking at maybe 5 to 10K. What could you use? And what do you need?
Okay, so they were planning on telling you donating $5,000 to $10,000.
Yeah, when they already knew what they were going to give us. They already knew. So, and
Okay.
it was already a done deal. So they made us go through the legwork. Unbeknownst to us, we made this short video about the, background of High Point Central, some areas that need attention.
Cool.
And so it's my understanding they decided after the fact, after we went through everything, there was one area that needed probably the most attention, which was our softball field.
Okay, yeah. Women's softball was a big deal when I was there in 2008. Like they were good, man. It was a good looking field. They were taking care of that thing.
And, you look at it, and I've always been one that, you look at the boys' facility or the girls' facility, comparable. And I think that's one thing on High Point Central's grounds that we need to make a difference. And so it's ironic this all came into play. But yeah, we got blindsided by them coming up to a softball game.
Okay, so the Dick Sporting Goods executives are showing up. They're coming up. They're going to hand you like a check of something. So you were one of the 75 schools.
Yeah. Only one in North Carolina.
Only one in North Carolina. All right, and so they came to High Point, North Carolina, and they're going to sit down and this is before or after the game?
It was before the game.
Okay, before the game.
I can't even remember it because I'm still.
Yeah, right.
It's
so
amazing.
So my sister-in-law was there, Emma Skinner. And she was telling me that like there was all these executives from Dick's Sporting Goods. It was like 4 or 5 guys.
No, probably 9.
Probably nine.
It was amazing. Like
got all
really
these,
for like a $5,000 check. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, you got all these suits coming over, and you're like, what is going on? Like, what's about to happen here?
Yeah.
And then I think Mike Cook is what she described it, and she's very good at telling stories. So he's kind of stressed out a little bit. He's
Always.
a high-strung guy.
I love Mike. Always, yeah.
He's Coach Cookie, dude.
He makes me feel good.
Funny.
Yeah.
All right, so who's reading the piece of paper and giving out the check? Do you remember?
So on the field at that time?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, he was kind of prompting, hey, Dick's Sporting Good, come here to donate some money, blah, blah, blah. The head executive, they're all out by the mound. You got the coach, you got the players. I believe that was it. The executive gives Coach King kind of the donation in a little card. Now, they got this big check behind a, drop cloth or whatever. And she starts reading, and she starts choking up when she gets to the number. And, she spits out the number. And I immediately am like, oh, my God, she read the number wrong. Like, oh, this is so embarrassing, And so, I thought she was going to say 7,500. She was supposed to say 7,500.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she said it, she's crying, and I'm saying, okay, yeah, 7,500 still a lot,
That's a lot. Yeah.
Tear-worthy still, and all of a sudden they dropped the drape for the check, and it was 75,000. And
75,000.
I still to this day have not watched my video of it because I know my hand probably dropped and it was nothing but the dirt. But I'll never forget, after about a good long 10 seconds, I looked back and all you see is Mike Cook with his chin. I mean, just in awe. And he literally said, what happened? Maybe some choice words in there, but like what just happened, in disbelief. Right. And, what was even more cool was watching the executives and, how happy they felt about it. Cool. And, one of 75 schools across the country, the only one in North Carolina. And, so now we got to come up with how do we put the money towards the softball? Like, to me, I want to make it like a wow softball field. Like, what's going to stand out? We're going to have like a big monster like Fenway Park or something.
Right.
What can we do to
the focal
make
point
it
of our
different
campus
than any other softball field in the state of North Carolina?
Yeah.
So that's the planning process right now.
Cool. That'll definitely bring the community together.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's a great way to and just beautification of
Yeah.
High Point Central High School and Dick's Sporting Goods helping out, and you putting all the footwork in, and Mike Cook kind of getting all the facts together. That's huge. That takes a lot of heart, and that takes a lot of grit, and that is quite
enjoyable. Yeah.
Quite an enjoyable experience,
Yeah.
I'm sure, and a lot of emotion. I felt the emotion through the story, and I'm glad I got to witness the story.
Really cool.
And there's probably going to be more coming out about it, but the community itself has already kind of figured out about it, and everybody's talking about it. So
yeah,
the before and after, we'll be excitingly waiting to see what it's going to happen at High Point Central High School. Well, cool, great. Well, Mike, this was awesome. I love getting together with you, and I know our journey together has just begun.
Yep.
And your career at High Point Central High School is going to be so fruitful and so helpful that I hope one day, me and you will be connecting over our daughters, going to High Point Central.
High Point Central is how I'm going to ride out in the sunset. It's going to be my last public education stop. So there's no question about that.
I love it. Well, Mike, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you coming on board with us on the Trust in the Drive podcast. And again, there's more news to come. This is only year one. We got year two.
Right.
Year two is going to be. We'll have to bring him back on the second season.
Yeah, please. I enjoy this.
We'll recap.
Yeah.
But thanks again for all your time today.
I appreciate it. Great opportunity.